News' political editor Darren McCaffrey joins in now live from Strasbourg. Now, Darren, that report just took us through a part of Jean-Claude Juncker's legacy. What else will he be remembered for?
Well, Annalise, whether people care or not, well, but clearly in Strasbourg at the moment, when you look around, even though the speech is in a couple of hours' time, you have to conclude that not many people do. But this place, I promise, will be full of MEPs and indeed of journalists in the next couple of hours who are all going to assemble here watching this speech. Yeah, OK, the State of the Union speech is not like that we see in the United States. It's not that big a deal. It is not the Queen's speech in England. It doesn't come with the Queen, obviously, but it is a big moment for the European Union, and it will be a big moment for Jean-Claude Juncker when he, and that is the live shot inside the Parliament, you see cleaners getting to work there. When he addresses it, will be his last State of the Union speech. And yet he spoke, 4 years ago, back in 2015, about how Europe was not in a good state. Many people, and looking at that report, you'd have to conclude when it comes to things like Brexit and migration and on the issue of trying to deal with the rise of populism, that Europe is still not in a good state. And saying that, Jean-Claude Juncker's team would point to the fact that they have made successes, that it is not all been bad for Europe. They would point to the legislative programme. There are many of the key aims that Jean-Claude Juncker set out to achieve on a whole range of issues that actually have been achieved. Comes to trade, new trade deals with places like Japan, and actually patching up and stopping that trade war with Donald Trump. That yet Brexit has not been great for the European Union, but actually what it has shown is that Europe can be united on an issue. And when it comes to the issue of Greece, for example, things are a lot better than they were when Jean-Claude Juncker took over. And on migration, yes, Europe is divided, but there is at least the start of a plan in place. It is not quite the crisis of 2015. So, yes, it's difficult to judge this presidency in the grand scheme of things. There's been progress on some issues, but is Europe more united today than when Jean-Claude Juncker took over? It'd be difficult to argue that it is.
That's a question that you could potentially put to him later on today. But what else can we expect from the wording of this speech? What will you be watching for?
Yeah, I think, Annalise, there's a few things we're going to have to look out for. Clearly, migration is going to be a big part of this speech, not least of all because it dominates all European politics at the moment. There is talk, and we are expecting an announcement on some type of border force that will be announced. 10,000 potentially personnel being sent to the front line, essentially to help send back people who are here in Europe illegally, and also to repatriate failed asylum seekers. That will be a big move. Many people will view it as a rather controversial one, though, given the fact that it may well contravene, as some nations would see it, their sovereign rights. We're also expecting announcements when it comes to things like trade, that Europe, he wants to be a greater force when it comes to global trade. I think it's going to be impossible for him not to mention Brexit. And also, he's going to have to try and address this idea of unity. I think given the fact that we've seen the significant rise of populism, given the fact we've got the significant vote on Viktor Orban later on today, he's going to have to in some way talk about European unity again, as he did 4 years ago. But ultimately, he's not going to be able to change very much because he steps down next year.